Would you give a warm Burl Press welcome to Bill O'Neill. How are you?
Good. Thank you. Thank you.
So first, how do you do this? How do you sing all morning and then in the afternoon, I assume you have shows throughout the week, and how do you kind of get yourself ready to do that?
Oh, it's very hard, let me tell you. It takes a lot of work to be a professional singer. A lot of people don't know how much it's like working out every day and like really exercising your muscles because it takes an enormous amount of voice to be able to do that, and a lot of training. And
you also do choir direction.
Yes.
Your father was a choir director.
Yeah. My dad was a church music director, and back in Rhode Island where I grew up, and so I spent every Sunday of my life in church singing.
Wow. And so tell us, have you ever heard God's voice?
I believe I have. It's kind of an interesting thing, but I always have felt that whenever I feel like God is leading me in a certain direction, I felt that it was God's presence leading me, and I knew that that's what God wanted me to do. So I never really feel I heard a voice speaking to me, but I've always felt it through music, and I ever since I was a kid. And it felt like even my dad sort of channeled that feeling in me of God is calling you to a life in music to inspire others through music. And that's why I love directing choirs, because I'm leading them to sing for God as well, and congregations too.
You talked last hour about how God spoke to you. You met your wife.
Yeah.
You were at a choir conference or so, and then you decided just on a whim to move out here to California, and that was kind of God in that.
Oh gosh. It was, I look back on it and I think I was absolutely crazy. But really, I met my wife at a church music conference, and we were just a handful of young people there. I was 21 years old, and I'd never lived anywhere but my mother's house. And I met her at this conference, and I was just there to accept an award on my dad's behalf.
Wow.
And he had passed away the year before, but he was being honored for his excellence in church music ministry. And I met her, and I felt this very strange call, and I was at a Taizé service actually. And if you don't know what Taizé is, it's a remarkable form of meditation and prayer through music and silence. And I was sitting there at a Taizé service, and I said, I heard this voice speaking to me, like, your life is not where you think it is, and you need to move out west. And there was my wife, just like sitting there behind me, and I met her afterwards, and we talked, and then I just felt the call. And then I interviewed for a job here in Burlingame while I was at the conference, of all places.
I've done that
It was
before.
actually it was at the Catholic church down the street.
Sure.
And they liked me, and I was like, this could really be. Of course, I didn't get that job, but it didn't stop me from that call. And literally, I had no money. I dropped out of college because I felt it and I knew it, and I just moved here. And eventually, I did finish college, and I did everything in music, and I'm here today. But looking back on it, it's like that had to have been God leading me on this path.
For sure. So there are folks watching on Facebook who are out here also in the congregation who have either never heard God's voice or wouldn't know what God's voice was like if God spoke. What advice would you give to folks?
I think that if you really just listen, because I know that voices can be difficult. Sometimes you just think it's what you hear in your head, and but God can either speak to you in a very loud way, like He spoke to me in D.C., or he could speak to you very softly, and and the thing is I had to truly contemplate these things and really, really listen. And sometimes I actually, I go outside and I just sit in nature and just listen in silence. But sometimes I have to listen to music to really hear God's voice. And it's like this otherworldly thing that happens to me. But
Wow.
I feel
Was
that.
it Augustine who said God speaks to us twice in music or something like
Yes.
that?
Yeah.
Well, so would you speak to us twice now? You are such a great singer, and you're going to sing from Man from La Mancha.
Yeah,
right?
Man of La Mancha. And I wanted to just ask you if I can preface this, but the musical Man of La Mancha is the story of Don Quixote, and who is, we would think of as being insane if we look at this character and think he was a madman, but his mission and his goal, he hears God speaking to him and saying that your job, your quest is to go out and fight evil and vanquish evil, and he speaks in this song all the quest of his life through God, and I think it's remarkable. And I also want to say that yesterday was the 800th birthday of Miguel de Cervantes, who wrote that book. So I was just
I
a
think
little
we celebrated
interesting
in our
fact.
house. We had a birthday for him.
Yeah, I know, right? I did.
Go for it.